She came over my house with a plane ticket. And this is a true story, guys. And she said, Joseph, take this plane ticket, okay? And get the F out of Florida. I don't want you here anymore. I'm in therapy because of you. I'm on medication because of you. Every time my phone rings, I think it's someone telling me you're dead or you killed somebody. She said, you don't know how to love. You don't know how to be loved. You destroy everything that comes in your path. I don't want you here no more.
I held the weight of the world in my hands, but I let it go. Now I understand. I'm awake, I'm aware, I'm alive. I'm living my best recovered life.
You're listening to the Recovered Life Show, the show that helps people in recovery live their best recovered lives. And here is your host, Damon Frank.
And welcome back to the Recovered Life Show. I am so thrilled about this episode. As many of you guys know, I've had about 6 or 7 months on TikTok doing lives. We've been helping alcoholics and addicts get and stay sober. And it has been such a fun ride. And part of the blessing of doing TikTok has been meeting the most interesting people in the world. I'm going to say it. The most interesting people in the world, in recovery at least, right? And one of those people is a gentleman that I met named Jomo, who has a very successful TikTok live following. He talks about recovery. I love his energy, and I heard his story, and he agreed to come on the show today. So I'd like to welcome him, and we're going to talk about empathy with him because his story is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Welcome to the show, Jomo. So glad you're here.
How are you? How are you, Damon? I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am thrilled. I was looking forward to this show all week because you're such an interesting person. Your story is very interesting. And I love we were just talking about your live. You are a super empathetic person. And when I heard your story, you were the first to say, I wasn't always this way.
Right.
I wasn't always this way. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And, how'd you get here? How'd you get sober? Tell us about this.
Well, I was born and raised in the Bronx. I was a street guy from New York. I was always attracted to the street life. I say all the time, Damon, I was misinformed by the misinformed. And I was taught the wrong way to live. I was raised in what happens in this house stays in this house. I wasn't getting the attention and the love. I never felt worthy enough in my house. I never felt accepted, and I found it in the street. And I was misinformed by street life. And my heart was hard. My heart was like a rock, like stone. And I had no feelings of sympathy, empathy, apathy, nothing. I just did whatever I wanted to do to get what I had to get. And I found refuge.
So you didn't really feel as a kid you had empathy? So did you
No,
feel
not at
that
all.
was missing of the people around you?
Yeah. I was a product of my environment. We were street guys, and what happened to you happened to you. And we didn't feel bad for anything. I always felt don't do the crime if you can't do the time. I always felt like if you're not willing to pay the price, don't stay with me. That's how I was raised. My whole neighborhood was I don't know if I could even say this was organized crime. My whole entire neighborhood. So I was born and raised into that. I was never in it. I was around it my entire life. And I'm going to say it multiple times, misinformed by the misinformed. I wasn't getting the family attention that I was getting, and I got it from a fake family in the street.
When did drugs and alcohol come in? So you're living kind of you're living in the shadow of organized crime. You're living in the shadow of people maybe not making the best decisions. And I know one of the things that you shared when I heard you talk about what was going on with you as a child, you didn't really feel that your parents were doing the best they could, but didn't really feel that they had the emotional bandwidth to give you what you need. When did alcohol pop in and drugs pop into the picture for you?
Age 13, I picked up my first beverage. It was fun. It was innocent. As kids, you hang out in the schoolyard, you dance in the schoolyard with your friends. We plan roller skating trips like to the local roller rink, and we'd all get one big bottle of wine, and 10 people drank it, and it was fun and it was enjoyable. And you were with your girlfriend, and you were with a bunch of people, and it was fun. And we go skate, and obviously, the alcohol became the gateway. There was reasons why I switched to another substance. My family would always smell the alcohol on my breath. First of all, I'm Irish and half Italian. I drink like prohibition's coming back.
You're
You know what I
cursed
mean?
already, right out of the gate,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right out
yeah.
of the gate.
So I graduated into we could say what we want to say on here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
This
yeah,
ain't
absolutely. We
right.
could talk
So
about.
I got into marijuana at the age of 14, alcohol 13, marijuana at 14, and cocaine at 15. And I switched each substance because I kept getting in trouble with the first two. It was easily smelt. Your eyes got pink. I was a little dopey on it. I didn't like the way it made me feel. And I just want to say this for the record. I found solace in all of that. I was accepted for that type of behavior in the street, right? I would be anything you wanted me to be. My first DOC, drug of choice, was your approval, was your
Oh,
acceptance.
that's interesting.
That was my first one, right? I would do anything I had to make Damon like me. I would do anything I had to make you laugh. Social acceptability. And that's when the substances came in, and I became that guy. I became the go-to. Go to Joe, he'll do this. Go to Joe, he'll do that. He'll do whatever. It was only because I wanted you to like me. But every
Did
time I did
you
those,
did you
go ahead.
feel as a sub did you feel like a lot of people um that are sober now talk about that they were maybe a little bit more sensitive? I have to say I don't come across like that. I think a lot of times, and when I do lives, people are when I say that people are shocked. I felt as a kid I was a lot more sensitive and empathic, right? I had a lot
Mhm.
of empathy, but I didn't know how to handle it. And
Right.
alcohol worked really. Did you have that? Can you talk about that a little bit? Were you aware that things really affected you and you had to kind of drown them out early on, or how did that work out for you? How did that work?
I always felt that I was a sensitive guy. I always felt like I had empathy. I always did feel sorry for somebody. If someone got in trouble in school, I felt bad for them. If there was some type of altercation after school, I always felt bad about the person who got the short end of the stick in the confrontation. But the substance just took that away from me. It made me a completely different person. And I realized that I couldn't get hurt emotionally if I was like that. If I stood my ground, if I stood hard, if I stood on concrete and didn't let anything affect me emotionally, especially in like feeling sad or feeling bad for somebody, I felt like I was like ahead.
Yeah.
I had one step above.
Well, I know, I think sometimes too with guys, there's violence sometimes that happens, abuse that happens with men a lot of the time, and we don't know how to handle that when we're young because you want to talk about powerlessness. Abuse is powerlessness. That's the ultimate powerlessness, right? And I think sometimes finding people who are maybe not having the best life, but you can look up to because they have the power. You know, we sometimes feel that like, well, that is how we take control. We can, we can either drown it out or we can become that person, right? And a lot of people do two different. And I see people who aren't alcoholics or addicts, but they will become anger addicts, rageaholics, because they don't know how to, they don't know how to, or all the above. When did this start really spinning out of control? Because look, a lot of people will have problems, Jomo, in earlier in their life with drugs and alcohol, but not everybody ends up in the same boat that you and I did. When did
Right.
this really spin out of control for you? When did you see the warning signs here?
That I had no empathy or the anger. And listen,
Or all of it?
I was raised in a household, smoke and mirrors, Damon, smoke and mirrors. I had a three family home, swimming pool, backyard, basketball courts, but my family was dysfunctional. My mother was very verbally abusive, and I never felt good enough for her. I never felt like I was enough for her. Um, she was a very angry woman, very, very angry. And I learned how to channel that when I got clean and sober. I learned how to forgive and love her again. But I was raised in a very angry household. I was raised with a father who always supported. My father was old school Irish, signed the check over on Friday, put it on the table, and his job was done as a dad. He was never there emotionally for me, yet alone for my brothers and sisters. He felt his job was done on Friday when he put the check down. He was never there for anything relevant in my life. I remember times when he didn't even come on vacations with us. He was so hungover he couldn't even get up. And I just had a built-in anger and a built-in rage. And it was from 15 years old. 15 years old. That's when it started. And it just escalated time and time again, over and over and over. I was always so quick to raise my hands. I was always quick to act out, verbally thrash people at the drop of a dime. It's because that's what I saw in my home. That's what I saw. My mother, when I was a child, if I didn't understand something with my homework, she would call me stupid, would call me, what are you, dopey? Are you a moron? And I hate to bring that up about her now because she's not like that anymore. Because as I healed in recovery, we healed. I learned to understand where she was brought up, where she came from, rather than, poor Joey, I was the victim. Look what you did to me. So from a young age, I was taught anger. I was taught violence. My family, Damon, would have family barbecues. And by the end of the barbecue, there'd be fistfights in the street with my mother, my father, my aunts, punching, slapping each other. This is what I saw as a kid. Mm-hmm. So I thought violence was the way out of everything. And then I got involved with the street guys and it escalated. It snowballed. It was terrible.
Do you think that's fear? Jomo, do you think that that's fear at the end of the day?
Absolutely.
Do you think the lack of empathy is not, it's just you can't show empathy because it's weakness? And I mean, I know we talked about violence or abuse, physical abuse, when people hit you. You and I was on your live and I was listening to some of this. And, what I found is if you're hit as a kid, one thing is you don't ever want to be vulnerable. You never really want to tell people exactly kind of what you're feeling because you just don't want to go there, right? Like you don't really want to go there because it's not a safe place to go there. And a lot of the times I find that people are raised around this. Maybe they were honest. Like, for example, did you ever tell your dad, hey, you're drunk all the time. Hey, you're not participating. Hey, you're trying to explain it when you're a kid, but you don't really know how. And then when you tell the truth in a household that's dysfunctional, you are the one that will get the brunt of it.
Right.
And that sets up, I think, psychologically for us, it's dangerous to tell people exactly what you're thinking. I don't know.
I
I'm
wasn't
curious on your
allowed.
thought on that.
I wasn't allowed to talk about how I was feeling on how my family was treating me. I wasn't allowed to. My mother was very, very aggressive. She was very condescending as a child. You didn't get to I'm a Gen Xer, man. You weren't allowed to say, "Hey, mom, I'm feeling this type of way today." You know what my mother would tell me? Well, go feel it upstairs in your room. I don't care how you're feeling. It wasn't like that. It's very different now as parents. Parents are much softer now. Parents are more open. They're more open to what their children are feeling. I wasn't raised like that. And forget about talking to my dad about how my dad was a flat line of emotion. He didn't have any. He didn't have any. The alcohol numbed his brain. You couldn't go to him and say, "Dad, I'm feeling this type of way. How come, Dad, you didn't show up to my home run game? How come every father in the neighborhood, Dad, was there but you? You weren't there." Because he didn't care. I know exactly where he was. He was in the bar drinking. So I had a lot of resentment. My whole life was based on anger, resentment. Everything that came out of my mouth was disdainful. That's what I was taught. And then it got worse in the street. And that's how it was for me as a kid.
When did it bottom out for you? You had several attempts at trying to get sober, right? This wasn't like
Yes.
for you. And I love that you talk about this. And I want to bring this up because I think a lot of people who have maybe been in your situation and maybe didn't get what they needed, right? Like we can say that you didn't really get what you needed. And so you end up, whatever, if it's an allergy or predisposition to becoming an alcoholic and addict, you end up in this situation and they say, well, I've tried it one or two times to get sober and it just doesn't work for me. It just, I'm just not going to be able, maybe I'm just the person who can't get sober. Did you feel that way? And how did you eventually get sober, Jomo? Because I know it took a little bit of time.
It took a long time. It took a long time. And I never felt like I couldn't get sober. I honestly, Damon, believed that I was going to die an active addict because I choose to do that. I knew that the 12-step programs worked. My mother was introduced to Naranon. And if it wasn't for her going there, I would have never known about the 12 steps. I just never wanted to adhere to it. My first attempt at recovery was, I'm sorry. My first attempt at recovery, I was 21 years old in 1988. And I remember when they read the preamble and they said to me, "We cannot afford to be confused about this. Alcohol is a drug." And I would look at the guy next to me. I said, "Is that a misprint?" I said, "Because that's not true. I'm only here to drop the substance. I'm never going to stop. I'm half Irish, half Italian. That's part of my culture." And the guy told me, "Kid, just keep coming back." And because I didn't want to surrender completely, I didn't want to get vulnerable. I didn't want to get teachable. I didn't want to admit that I was powerless and my life was unmanageable. I added 40 years of pain, misery, and suffering, more guilt, shame, and remorse. I knew I had a problem by the time I was a senior in high school. I knew I was already in my first facility when I was 21 years old, maybe 19. I may be off a little bit. I knew I had a problem. I just didn't want to fix it. I knew years before I finally admitted it in 2020. But if I admitted it back then, I would have had to do something about it right away. And I was addicted to the lifestyle. I was addicted to the negativity. I was addicted to that lifestyle of give me mine no matter what. So I knew for a long time, Damon.
Yeah. And eventually, I know you got to a place that was not good. And you were kind of forced to make a change. I want to dive into that.
With my mom.
Yeah, when we get back from this quick break, Jomo, I want to dive in to what happened when you bottomed out, and then how have you been able to build empathy and practice empathy? Because I have to tell you, you are a patient man. I've heard you, and you practice empathy, and I could see it in you. I've learned a lot from you on how you practice it. So I want to get into that because for people who maybe have just gotten sober and they're like, I struggle with this, we're going to find out how Jomo did it. So we're going to be back after this quick break.
Okay.
Recovery isn't just a journey, it's a lifestyle. And now, you can wear your recovery with pride. The Recovered Life Shop is live, packed with merch designed just for people in recovery. Whether it's a hoodie to keep you warm, a mug to start your day right, or a statement tee that lets the world know you're living your best recovered life. Need a little humor in your recovery? Grab the Resentment Some Assembly Required t-shirt. It's a classic. Ready to take massive action? Start your day with the Massive Action coffee mug. Or keep it simple and spiritual with the Chopwood Fetch Water Trucker hat. Every piece is designed to inspire, start conversations, and keep you connected to your recovery journey. And the best part? Every purchase supports great content like this and spreads the recovery message. So, go to recoveredlife.tv and click on the Shop tab now.
Okay, we're back. We're talking with TikTok phenomenon. Jomo is joining us today. And man, we've been getting into it a little bit. We're getting deep here, Jomo. I love it. Before the break, we were talking about how you got to a place where it was no longer working and you had to make a decision. Can you take us back there? And then we can talk about how you started to build this practice of empathy in your recovery.
Okay. I had relocated to Florida in 2018. They call Florida the second chance state. And it wasn't a second chance for me. First of all, I didn't come out here to get clean and sober. I came out here to pump the brakes. I was in a little bit of trouble in New York and I had to make a quick exit. And I came to Florida. I did not come to Florida to get clean. I came just to try to rebuild a little bit and continue what I was doing. Long story short, Damon, my life turned into utter chaos from 2018 to 2020. My mother told me, come out here, but don't bring the Bronx to Florida. And I did exactly that. I brought the Bronx to Florida. Even with all the problems that I've had with my mom helped me buy a home, a little home, a 3-bedroom, double wide trailer. And I moved into that spot. My life was in a downward spiral. It was utter chaos. And from 2018 to 2020, I pillaged through the state of Florida. I wasn't paying my bills. I wasn't paying my mortgage, my car payment. Everything was going. I owed my mother over $50,000. And I think I'm lowballing it. It's probably way more than that. When she watches this, she's probably going to laugh and say, you owe me so much more than that, Joe. You know, so
So she had financial empathy. She ended up having empathy for you.
Yes. My mother got softer with age. Whatever her journey was, you know what? Who knows how much of that I caused to her? You know, Damon, let me tell you what happened with my mom. She came over my house with a plane ticket. And this is a true story, guys. And she said, Joseph, take this plane ticket, okay? And get the F out of Florida. I don't want you here anymore. I'm in therapy because of you. I'm on medication because of you. Every time my phone rings, I think it's someone telling me you're dead or you killed somebody. She said, you don't know how to love. You don't know how to be loved. You destroy everything that comes in your path. I don't want you here no more. I came out here to retire and to enjoy my life and to have peace. And a day at a time for the last 2 years, you have taken that away from me. You are not welcome here no more. Where's your family? Where's Rosie? Where's your daughter? You're living in an empty house. And Damon, why after 45 years of doing this to this woman, I get emotional over it, that I saw for the first time in my life the pain I was putting her in, the sadness, the disappointment in her face. I had that moment of clarity that they talk about. Now, she's yelled at me millions of times, but why did I hear it that moment? That's a higher power thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell you that I got sober that night. It took another week, but by the grace of God, May 4th, 2020, I put it all down and I haven't looked back. And I've been a work in progress. This is not the finish. I'm getting emotional, man. I'm sorry. I'm a work in progress. I like who I'm becoming. I like who I am right now.
But we
And
love it. We love it, Jomo. And it is emotional. It is. And and the thing is that I said the other day to somebody, sobriety is filled, it's not just one aha moment like I can't drink and use like my fellows. It's a series of, like, I call it like an unfolding of aha moments. I call them spiritual awakenings. And one of the early spiritual awakenings I got very clearly was, I remember the day where I realized, oh, it's not all about me. And I think that's when I really started to get a lot more empathy and kind of tap back into where I was before this whole thing, before the whole alcohol, addiction for me. How has this been for you over the last several years with this unfolding with empathy? Because I see it when I go to your lives. I see you. You're very empathetic. How has it? Did it happen all at once? Did it
no.
unfold? What happened? How did this happen?
I mean, first of all, I started so young with substance and alcohol. I never knew who I was, Damon. I had no clue. I was a 50-year-old man, acting like a child. I didn't know how I was emotionally. I didn't know how I was, mentally. I started to build on empathy when I started in my recovery journey. I started to learn who I was when I started working steps. My journey, I am a 12-stepper. I go to meetings, and through this amazing, beautiful process of the steps. Now, they may not be your journey, but it's what works for me. And I found when I did my 4th and 5th step, I started to learn who I was. I became accountable. I learned how to forgive. I learned how to love. I learned what my role was in all the resentments I had with people. I was able to turn it around, and my heart got big and my heart got soft. And I learned how to love, and I learned how to be loved. And I'm still doing that now. But I have to stay in this process of recovery. I do make meetings. I do have a sponsor. I believe in the 12-step program with everything I am. Everything I am right now is because of the 12 steps and making meetings and giving it away and doing my lives and helping newcomers in meetings. That's what keeps my heart big and full. And I work on it every day. I mean, I'm not Jesus. I don't walk on water. I have my days. The only time I walk on water is when it rains. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I didn't know who I was. I had no clue who Joe was until I got clean and sober. I knew I was an angry guy. I knew I was a hurt guy. Everything negative about me, I knew. I didn't know anything positive. And then I got plugged into my 12-step program, and I opened the floodgates for a happy, joyous, and free life because I surrendered. Nothing happens in this recovery journey until that one thing happens: surrender. No more what ifs, no more reservations, no more maybes. I completely gave it away. I gave it to God, and I've been clean and sober ever since.
An amazing story. And I have to ask you, because I know a lot of people are thinking this. How do you forgive? Because part of empathy is forgiving and understanding that people are sometimes doing the best they can, sometimes not doing the best they can. We learned that in recovery too. Sometimes people are not doing that. They're choosing not to do the best they can. But how do you even let that go? Because if you have to let go and surrender to then be empathetic, to be safe in empathy, I think we just say that, feel safe in empathy. How'd you do that to people that you perceived or had a direct experience that, were part of abusing you or not doing their best with you? How do you do that? How do you let go to forgive? How'd you do that?
Well, the biggest person in my life that I had to learn to forgive was my mom. All the street guys, I don't really care about, Damon. I've never seen them since I got clean and sober. I don't care what was done to me or what I did to them. I'm not really concerned with that. The people who meant something to me, which was my mom and my dad, that's who I had to learn to forgive. So I always say in my lives, through step work, meditation, and prayer, I had to learn to forgive. I had to learn to forgive. And how I did that was I learned to understand rather than always be understood. My dad was brought up in a horrific environment. I can't even get into that. That's how bad it was. My mom, like me, misinformed by the misinformed. She was raised terrible. The same type of abuse, the same type of violence. And she brought it into my life. And she told me, Joseph, I'm sorry. I did what I knew. Now I could have said, well, you know what? You could have broke the pattern. You could have broke the chain. For what? She didn't do it. So now when somebody tells you, Joseph, I'm sorry, there's only two choices, Damon. I forgive you or I hold resentment. I harbor resentment. And I don't want to hold resentment anymore. Resentments kill my soul like a cancer. So I learned to understand where she came from. And we cried over it and we hugged over it. And she is my biggest ally now, my most biggest supporter in my life, other than Rosie, my wife. So I worked on empathy, but it wasn't until I started working some steps and I got in touch with a higher power. I'm a real cut and dry type of recovery guy. You do the meetings, you do the steps, your life gets better. But that's not everybody's journey. I learned through this process how to forgive and how to love myself and how to love other people. And my biggest issue was with my mom. And a day at a time, it's beautiful now. It's beautiful.
I love this. I love this. And, in closing here, I would love it if you would talk to the person who thinks that, this empathy thing, whatever, I'm sober, I'm physically sober. Maybe they don't want to do the work. Maybe they don't want to do the personal work that you mentioned to get there. They don't want to make the amends. They don't want to forgive people. What am I going to get out of being empathetic in sobriety? What is empathy really going to get me? Can you tell us a little bit, in closing, about what you've gotten out of being empathetic? Maybe something that you got that you didn't realize that you would get. What are some of the gifts that have appeared in your life because you chose the empathy path?
Well, I learned, I get emotional, man. I learned how to love through empathy. I learned how to understand through empathy. One of my biggest sayings, and I said it multiple times in here already, I learned to understand rather than be understood. I learned to meet you where you're at. I learned to pause and say, why did this person do this? Why did this person act the way they did? Through empathy. I learned how to care. I've learned how to hug. I've learned how to love through empathy. I don't want to walk around angry anymore. I don't want to be the victim anymore. And if I could tell anybody to please let it go. Everybody's level of trauma, PTSD is different. I can't sit here and tell you it's going to be easy, but I could tell you that the joy from opening up your heart and saying, okay, this happened. I don't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to harbor this resentment anymore. It can be done, but we got to do the work. We got to learn to forgive. But we don't have to do anything. I'm saying that if you open your heart and you open your mind, the joy is in the journey. My journey is beautiful right now. Damon started this off saying, I always say in my life, this is not the man that would be sitting here 5 years ago. And because of my journey in recovery, I have empathy. And I always want to have an attitude of gratitude. I always want to have an attitude of forgiveness. Because what's the other side of it? The victim? I always say there's no victims anymore. There's willing participants.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather be happy than right. I don't always have to be right anymore. I'd rather be happy and meet you where you're at.
So amazing. Jomo, thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, for those of you that are Recovered Life Plus subscribers, we're going to do a separate after the show with him. So Jomo, hold on. I just want to say thank you so much. And we're going to put links on how to get a hold of Jomo. You are a super inspirational person. And, you're somebody that I look up to about modeling recovery, how you do it. And your sense of empathy for people and allowing people the grace to be who they are is very inspiring. So I can't wait to talk with you after the show. Thanks so much for coming on today, Jomo. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey, if you like this episode, think about supporting us by becoming a Recovered Life Plus member. At Recovered Life TV, we're not just delivering premium recovery resources, we're empowering you with the knowledge and tools that make a real difference in the quality of your recovery. By subscribing, you gain access to ad-free content, expert insights, exclusive video and audio segments, special projects, plus so much more, all while supporting our mission to spread the recovery message far and wide. Whether you're seeking to deepen your understanding or stay updated on the latest addiction and mental health recovery trends, Recovered Life Plus is for you. Subscribe now and start living your best recovered life. Just go to recoveredlife.tv and become a Plus member today.